This is four familiar faces from your SBUS 199 class. I am Jireh Gonzalez.
I'm Amar, man.
I'm Lauren Bauer.
And I'm Chris Holloway.
This is going to be an embrace debate between us four students on today's Quit Ducking Around. I will pass it off to Lauren Bauer to talk about our first topic.
Okay, our first topic, we're going to be talking about deviance. And the current event regarding deviance we're going to be talking about is Big Papi.
For the MLB, they're making a new rule that batters can't step out of the batter's box, and that between pitches they have to have at least 1 foot in the batter's box. Big Papi, what he's saying is, it hurts the game because you can't clear your mind, you can't reset kind of.
These rules under conformity or over conformity. That's a main kind of focal point of deviance in sports. And so, what are you guys' thoughts on if it's over or under conformity?
This is under conformity because he's basically saying I don't want to follow this rule. I'd rather get fined. I'd rather lose a bunch of money than following your guys' rule.
I kind of think that the MLB, if they're really going to follow through with this rule, should give him an ultimatum and just be like, we're not going to allow this to happen. We're not going to allow you to just kind of show us and take a fine every time. Either we're going to suspend you. I think it needs to be put into action first. They need to actually see him do it because he could just be saying it because he doesn't like the rule. But until he actually does anything, he's not in the wrong.
On the other hand of that, I feel like it could be over conformity in a sort of way because by him not following the rule, that will give him an advantage over the other players. He's going to be first to bat all the time instead of everybody else, not being able to, when they do follow the rules.
Where if people follow the rule during the game, his consequences are being felt after the game, and they're not related to the game at all. They're related to his wallet.
The MLB, I feel like they need to take action with listening to someone that's a face of their league. Big Papi has been in their league for a very long time. He's one of the best players in the MLB. So I feel like with him expressing how he feels about the situation, just taking into consideration about he's one of the best hitters. So it's just telling you it's a first-person view of how they feel about this stuff, and it's just you're trying to implement these rules. Okay, so our next topic is violence. The question is, do sports need violence to sell? And that's from a business standpoint and from just the player standpoint. I don't know how you guys feel about violence in sports, and do you think that they need it to sell, or is it not needed at all?
When the first golden age was, there was a lot of violence. And right now, there's been these past couple of weeks have been a couple of violence, within basketball itself, the college. But people like to see controversy. That's what we feed off. It's a guilty pleasure of everybody's. And then you just have to pretty much balance it to where what's enough violence, and then what's getting kind of out of the hand. And I feel in boxing, that's the bell, and then fouls and different levels of fouls. They always try to balance it out.
We talked about in class the other day, there's levels of violence, the violence that's part of the sport that you can't really get upset, just the physicality of certain sports. And then I think it's just part of an athlete is an athlete's image is so much pushing his body to the limits and trying to define do what is not humanly possible, or whatever. So I think that when there's violence involved, it's just another thing because it's just he got punched in the face and then scored 10 points after. It's wow, if I got punched in the face, I would ice my face. Yeah, so it's when you put it into the context of how we relate to it, as everyday people, as the viewers, we love to see people overcome violence.
I feel like it varies a lot within different sports. So if you talk about a sport like UFC, of course they need violence to sell because the sport of UFC is a violent sport. In order for them to keep selling merchandise, things of this sort, they're going to have to keep booking fights, and the fights are violent, so they're going to need that to sell. But if you take non-contact sports like basketball, they don't necessarily need violence to sell, but it certainly could help a little bit.
Who whose responsibility do you guys think it is for the players to be able to say, like, turn off their aggression and their violence?
You see artists throwing punches. You see rappers. You see literally anybody. Everybody gets pissed. Everybody gets mad. Everybody fights. But it's just like, it so happens like Ray Rice, like he did that to his fiance. It's just like, that's just a slip of character.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that
You're not.
he's
That
not
could
going
easily
around
been-
just knocking out like people.
That could have
Yeah,
easily
like-
been an everyday
Yeah,
guy doing the
exactly,
same thing.
exactly.
And it
Anybody
is.
could have.
I honestly feel like there's responsibility on both sides. Obviously, you're supposed to be accountable for your actions, but a lot of the time in football and a lot of time in UFC and like a lot of time in basketball, I know like coaches and like people around them always encourage like use your anger to like make you better, like use that and use that to build your skill. And it's just like, well, you're always focused on balancing your anger, always focused on when to use it, when this and that. And it's like, well, most of the times coaches want your life to be football. So it's just like, it's a, like really confusing for like a lot of people, and I can see how like that mixed with fame, mixed with like on field and off the field actions can just like really like drive a person crazy. It's just,
Like when you're in a professional environment, you have to you do your job. You do your job the way you do it, and then when you get out of your job, that's on you. Like that's on you. You're responsible for yourself. But then at the same time, you have these coaches and these people who are recruiting. And if I'm a recruiter, I want a guy like Richie Incognito who's going to be a killer on the field, who is a straight dog, who is going to go out there and give his all. Because most of the time, when you see these dudes who have chips on their shoulders, when they get on the field and when they get on the basketball court, they're playing with that fire inside them. So it's somebody that you want on your team because you understand that they're going to produce at a very, very high level.
We've been talking about gender and class, gender discrimination between men and women, obviously, like in sports, in the sports world. Will women's pro sports ever be able to thrive as much as men's? What do you guys think?
There's no way that women's pro sports could be on the level as men's sports. And it's not, it has nothing to do with skill set, it has nothing to do with the attitude of these players, it has nothing to do with the players themselves, it has nothing to do with the women coaches. I just feel like from the beginning of time, men's sports has always had an advantage, and so they're always ahead. And so if you have women's sports here and you have men's sports here, men's sports is not falling at all. It's going nothing but up. So when women's sports go up, men's sports are going up as well, so they'll never be equaled out.
I think that it's interesting because I think like a lot of people are expecting to see the same type of play as men's. So you kind of have to accept it for what it is, and like every sport between male and female are going to be a whole different sport in a sense. Women's basketball versus men's basketball is different. Women's soccer versus men's soccer is different. So I think maybe once we start embracing that culture versus always comparatively putting it to the NBA or the male league of it, and I do think that there's a market because there is still a like great game being played, a great narrative being shown, and it's just, I think like you said, it's just kind of like old, like no one really wants to break out and be like, you know what, we're going to put X $1 million behind this women's sport and we're going to do it and we're going to fully embrace it and stuff like that.
well, first of all, like sports was created like with men, and like the tradition has been like men's sports has been the thing that you wanted to watch. And I feel like that kind of takes away from the women watching women's sports. Like we're also used to watching male sports and just male dominated sports like boxing and wrestling and football and basketball. Everybody's just, that's the tradition. That's what we all grew up with. Like,
Okay, if you look at tennis, men's and women's, they're pretty equal.
Yeah, women's
honestly,
yeah.
women's tennis is the biggest women's sport in the world. I would like arguably. Like,
Yeah, I could say
and
that.
that goes back to that icon like of Jordan's stature. Like Williams sisters, they just like
they took
killing it. Like they're the best in their sports.
And then like Sharapova and like
Exactly.
there's like a bunch of like up and comers as well. It's like
You have to have stars. Like people are attracted to stars. People are attracted by domination. It's like they need to keep more records of women's sports and like who like nobody never did this. Like there needs to be more exposure and more data on these women so we can actually appreciate and actually want to watch.
In order for women to be seen, they have to be like this ultra superstar. So stars like Wambach or stars like Maya Moore or Lisa Leslie, the only reason why they're known so much is because they are just crazy, crazy talented. Or people like Ronda Rousey. I didn't hear about any women UFC fighters before Ronda Rousey, but because she's dominating so much in her sport, you hear about her so
Attracting
much.
attention to it.
And I feel like that's the same like when it goes for women's. Like you see us, we only know the names of like big stars, man. Like people who don't watch the NBA or NFL or UFC, they probably know only one or two names, just like we know. Like we only know people who dominate in those women's sports, and people who might not watch sports at all only know the people who dominate. So what is the pretty much the common grounds that we can come on and try to build up together, and then like what's contrast, like you were saying, you have to just take them for what they are. So in closing, we talked about gender, violence, deviance, underconformity, overconformity. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm Jireh Gonzalez.
I'm Amar, man.
Lauren Bauer.
Chris Holloway.
We are saying goodbye from Quit Ducking Around. Bye, SBUS 199.